Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FF6 Worlds Collide. We have a Coliseum Round 2 race happening here tonight between FiKtaH and Holgart. Should be some good times. I am Jackamus Wedge, leading the call tonight. Joining me is Tara Omen. How are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to see what these runners have in store for us today.
Absolutely. Should be a pretty fun race here. FiKtaH, I believe, is the 19 seed, and Holgart is the 30 seed. All seeding based on just one single race, however, so seeding not necessarily particularly accurate in this tournament whatsoever. So we don't really look at those numbers. We just play the games and we see what happens.
Yep, and we have what looks like a mostly pretty standard race going on tonight. Nothing that looks too surprising. Requirements of 6 characters and 10 espers. They will be starting with 2 characters. And most of the stats are pretty much normal. Characters going to be coming in at the average level, so anybody that you get later in the game won't have any trouble catching up. Um, yeah, standard enemy scaling as well as elemental attacks will be scaled. And there are no dragons required, and dragons have not been shuffled in with bosses, so there is always the possibility that somebody might decide to take on a dragon for the XP. Um, though dragons have also not been scaled, so they could be a good choice of getting some XP, but they will be pretty risky if you do that.
It depends on which dragon you run into. Some dragons are fairly pushover-esque compared to others. With the elemental scaling on, though, that does change around what the dragons can dish out quite a bit. And some of them do have a very high natural level, so they could bust out some really, really nasty moves on an unsuspecting player.
Yeah, and so we'll have to see whether any of them decide to take that risk. Um, there could also be some advantages to some of the item drops, like if you have a very strong magic user, you might want to try to take on Dirt Dragon, get that Magus Rod. We'll probably also see plenty of, um, you know, different stuff throwing up in the shops. The shop settings are set to shuffle plus random, so all of the, vanilla stuff you would see in shops are going to show up somewhere in the world, but there's always the possibility that some really nice prizes can show up.
Yeah, you never know. Definitely favorable settings in terms of finding some elite gear one way or another, be it through treasures, shops, or the Coliseum. All the rewards are visible there. It'd be interesting to see if either of our racers take a little gander there and see if they can get anything nice.
Yep, that's always a very good place. Sometimes you end up with 8 Illuminas because they're going nice and cheap.
8 Illuminas is nice, but you could always have 99 Illuminas. Not sure that you'd even be able to throw 99 Illuminas over the course of an average seed, but
I
we
would
can
love to
dream.
see it. I would definitely love to see it. They'll probably also be looking for some of the rods and shields that are available. Um, and the Cursed Shield also has been set to between 4 to 16 battles to break the curse. So that's not bad odds that you might be able to get a pretty easy to break curse on that. So we'll have to see, if luck shows up and that becomes available.
A lock start would probably be the dream on these settings if the Curse Shield takes at most 16. 16 is basically around the if you get it right away, maybe it's worth it number, is what I usually consider. Anything over 16, I'm usually just like, that Curse Shield is now about 3,000 gil.
Yeah, and It is also if you get it like right at the beginning and you haven't done any grind battles yet, keeping it on while you're leveling up a bit. Of course, finding a ribbon to go along with it makes a huge difference.
Ribbon definitely helps. Peace ring is enough to at least keep control over the character wearing the shield, which is usually enough. But of course, if you don't have either of those, you will have a useless character for a few battles if you're trying to uncurse the shield.
Yeah.
Paladin Shield, of course, is the primo defensive item in Final Fantasy VI, so you definitely want one of those if you can swing it.
Yep. And yeah, it absorbs quite a few different types of elements. And in the vanilla game, of course, it's also one of the ways of learning Ultima, but Ultima has been deactivated for this seed, so no Espers nor the Paladin Shield will give us that.
No Ultima, nope. We don't want it to be too easy. The gear is definitely has at least a pretty high chance of finding some nice stuff, so might be a more physical oriented seed. Of course, it depends on which spells you find and which commands you have access to.
Yeah, and there's always some real questions about, are you going to find purely offensive spells? Are you going to find healing spells? Um, it's fairly common to get to the final battle without a single cure spell and be very reliant on items, or if you have elemental absorption using like Merton strats. Oh, but it looks like the race is getting started.
They've been given the countdown, and they will be off in just a moment here, folks. So here we go. We've got a Shadow Realm start. We've got Tools and Dance, both some pretty interesting commands to have access to early on.
Yeah, I find tools is one that doesn't get utilized quite enough compared to some of the other commands because, if you get sword tech or blitz or something, you just need levels. But tools, you have to actually go out and find them somewhere in the world, and you never know if you're going to find any good ones. So it's kind of hit or
Exactly.
miss.
Tools can be a great command, but it is entirely dependent on which tools that you find scattered around the world in chests and shops. You can steal a couple or get a lucky drop here or there depending on the enemies, but by and large, I'd say the tools that you're usually looking out for the most are going to be that air anchor, which is one of the best ways to inflict instant death. And if you want just decent straight up damage, the drill is a solid option until very late game.
Yeah, and, and when you're doing any kind of grind fights, a nice flash can be good to just take out entire groups, especially if before you have a lot of magical options. In the early game, there's not usually very many good AoE effects.
Not usually, no, but at least at the start of a seed, the enemies are pretty low level depending on how the scaling works. But yeah, looking at our start here with Shadow and Realm, Shadow has a lot of checks, but there's a lot of fighting involved for Shadow outside of the freebie at Gao's dad's house.
Yeah,
So that might be a good place to start to see if you can get a quick third character or an Esper. And it looks indeed like FiKtaH is going to be heading over to Gao's crazy old dad's pad.
and we
And
have
we
just
get
a
a pair of
ghost.
Marvel shoes. Dead check, but at least one of the better relics.
Oh, and we have a drill for sale there, so that'll work out quite well. Looks like he's selling some stuff to be able to afford that.
Just debating what to sell to get that drill. Marvel shoes will sell for quite a bit, but if you want to use the relic, of course, that's not what you want to sell. Looks like FiKtaH is going to just sell a bunch of tents, remedies, and the like. FiKtaH will be able to buy some more of those later. So that drill pickup actually quite nice early on here. That'll be a good way to get some damage out and at least bop a few enemies early on.
Yeah, it does ignore defense, and it's very reliable because unlike things like blitzes and sword techs, the drill you can choose who you aim it at, so it makes it a good solid weapon.
Yeah, we've got both racers having a look inside the returner's base treasury. Nothing too interesting. Holgart elected to go for the hidden chest, which is a ribbon. So
There's
if
a
nothing
second
else,
ribbon in the bedroom.
yeah, a couple of ribbons laying around. Those will sell for quite a bit of money, and 13K inside of the pot. So going to returners, not necessarily a bad play early on. It at least gets you a few treasure chests. Might be able to buy a couple interesting things if you make some money here.
And then it'll be interesting to see where they decide to go next. Realm does have a couple of very quick checks. Um, you can get in and out of Esper Mountain super quick as long as it's not too rude of a boss. And Owser's Mansion, you do have to fight a couple of battles against the portraits on the way down, but if they turn out to be manageable fights, you can get a few levels under your belt before getting to the boss.
Holgart's gonna go check the one treasure inside Duncan's house.
That's something I almost never see.
No, well, it turns out to be a great play because it's a hero ring. It's the accessory you want.
And there's a third ribbon in South Figaro.
Ribbons for everyone. You know, if I had this start, I think I'd probably just go straight to Esper Mountain from here. Take off my Moogle charm, fight a couple battles, get a couple dances. You never know, you might get something with landslide in it, and just try to beat the boss there.
And we also saw a Genji glove just showed up in South Figaro. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see dances on Realm. She does have the highest natural magic power of everyone in the vanilla game. And so, you know, dance could be very powerful in her hands.
It certainly could. Didn't see exactly how the character's stats rolled. They are slightly randomized on these flag settings.
Yeah, it can be anywhere from 85% to 115%, though with how high Realm's natural magic is, even if it goes as low as 85%, that's still better than most of the other characters.
Yeah, basically better than any character not named Celes or Terra.
And that was the fourth ribbon down in the South Figaro Underground.
Yeah, I think you have to go look at the weapon store here and start selling some of those ribbons. Maybe pick up some rods to get you past an early boss. Or maybe you just find, oh, there's a Luminous for sale here. Yay! Bioblaster pickup for Holgart.
Yeah, that could be another really good one. Um, Poison damage is not something you get very many sources of, and if you end up going against Funbaba or Katana Soul in a trap chest, then having some poison damage can definitely come in handy, and it's pretty good at hitting that AOE damage if you're fighting random battles for a grind.
It's certainly alright early on in the game. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, and the few bosses that are vulnerable to poison it can be handy for, but typically offense is going to outpace defense in this randomizer, usually, so Bioblaster more of a situational tool than an outright great tool.
We have FiKtaH
Victor's going to go
heading.
have a look inside of Tizen.
We'll see what the creepy old guy in the woods has for us today.
Well, it's an Esper and a really cheap one at only about 6,000 gold. Victor's going to sell a running shoes and a thief knife and a magicite. No one likes magicite.
Yeah, you always run the risk of running into that random crusader.
Now, offering for sale in the relic shop there.
Oh my,
So,
and
a very nice relic with the right weapon.
we've also already found a Genji glove, so maybe they could find a double set of fixed dice or something.
I certainly hope not, Terra. I despise those dice. I'm sure it's quite well documented at this point.
What's your problem with the dice?
They take too long and they're too unreliable. They have their uses, I admit, but there's just so many better ways to damage things.
Oh, and looks like we are getting that air anchor and the auto crossbow are also available for sale.
Yeah, tools looking like a good command. The two primo tools that I mentioned already picked up by FiKtaH there. Air Anchor, great if you want to gain a couple quick levels. Take the Moogle Charm off, see what you run into. Most random encounters are vulnerable to death. Just fire away with that Air Anchor and forget.
Yeah, definitely pretty lucky. It's in my experience pretty rare to find that many tools when you can actually use them. So definitely gonna be handy. Victor is now checking out um, Thamasa.
Yeah, the Mesa Warpstone and another hero ring. Well, first hero ring for FiKtaH did not pick up the obscure chest inside Duncan's house. Gold hairpin, that's a solid 15k or so if sold.
And Holgard appears to be checking Miranda, which is definitely a rarely seen check. There's only a couple of items to pick up here, but probably hoping to find something useful in the shops.
Well, weapon shop, gonna pick up a few cheap shurikens. I see snipers for sale. None of the starting characters can equip them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, shurikens can be a good thing, just to hold on to, just in case you find somebody that can throw them, because they are another one of those items that ignores defense and can dish out pretty good damage in the early game.
Yeah, sure, shurikens are all right. You're generally better served just throwing your high battle power weapons that you're never going to use. I mean, it's a race. You got to go fast. All your inventory is just gone at the end. You can't really save it up. You have to abandon those hoarder tendencies racing an RPG randomizer like this.
You mean I shouldn't be taking 12 elixirs to the final battle and never using any of them?
Exactly. Elixirs are about 10 grand. Very slick movement from Holgart there. Was able to walk through the child running up the stairs.
That's always one of those things where you gotta hit it at just the right moment while he's, sliding up the railing.
Some base consumables picked up for Holgart. Holgart not buying the air anchor. More interested in picking up the Esper here, which was Stray.
And I didn't catch if we got a look at it, but what spells are on it. Looks like FiKtaH has opted to take off his Moogle Charm. Gonna take a couple of random battles here.
Yeah, it's the way to do it there. FiKtaH electing to just try to drill these Gecko Rexes down. I'm pretty sure the frog at least should be vulnerable to the air anchor, and Fick's just gonna say, no, I think it's gonna take too long. I'm gonna reset out of this fight.
Yeah, those frogs do give a decent amount of XP. Um, Especially when you find the battle where there's four of them together in vanilla speedruns. That's one of the most favored grinding fights. It's like we're
Looks
still
like
going
gonna pick up a few more chests here in World of Ruin South Figaro. At least finds a red jacket for his troubles there. So red jacket, one of the better body pieces in the game.
It does give immunity to fire. I think that's at least the second red jacket we've seen too.
Yeah, we've seen a couple red jackets now. Holgart's going through the inventory, raising some fundage here. Anything interesting in this weapon shop? Well, there's enhancers if you like magic power stat.
Yeah, enhancer, if you have, any character that's going to be purely using magic, gives a +7 to your magic power. It's as good as it gets.
It's a solid small boost to your magic damage.
Yep. Looks like he's trying to sell enough stuff to get one of those. Probably going to put it on Realm. It'll pair well with uh, the magic damage from the dances.
Definitely. Assuming they really end up using dance much at all there, that first Esper does have Ice 3 on it. Level 3 spells
Oh.
are typically what you want to come out of your magic command for damage.
Yeah, and with Realm's magic power, if she has access to a tier 3 spell, that'll cover her for pretty much the whole game. You want to get, a variety of elements available, but all she needs is anything good she can dish out magic damage with.
Typically, yeah. Under this setup, it's definitely magic for Realm. I mean, if you happen to find something like, say, an Illumina and she can use it, I mean, you probably want to switch her over to physicals, but the physical stat Vigor in this game doesn't really do a whole lot unless you have a huge amount of it. So, not most of the stats in this game are just numbers, honestly, outside of the defense and evasion stats. Truthfully.
Yeah, stamina being completely useless, it pretty much affects almost nothing except how much you take from poison and regen.
Yep, snow mufflers for sale here for 50k. Another great defensive armor, but when you got a couple red jackets, I don't think you're super concerned about picking up snow mufflers.
Yeah, I believe that does offer ice absorption, but uh, fire protection tends to be one of the higher priorities. I think fire is the most commonly seen element,
Yeah, it really is.
especially in the final battle. There's quite a few enemies in the final battle tiers that like to hit you with AoE fire. And we have FiKtaH is heading into Owser's mansion here. So this will be the first check one of our runners is looking into.
And it's about that time to be start doing checks. We've been playing for about 15 minutes there. I know a lot of runners like to try to loot as many chests as possible, try to get powerful early on. Generally, early on, I think you're just better served getting a few quick levels. That'll make a far bigger difference than any gear would. Like, level 3 in this game is pathetic. You do not want to be level 3.
Yeah, and especially since the scaling is based on the progress you make through the game, the number of characters and pieces of magicite that you find. So if you level up a bunch before you've gone around and collected a lot, you can be ahead of the curve and be pretty well equipped to take down most of what you encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. And already FiKtaH has a level 9 character. Unfortunately, Realm got exploded, so she's still level 3, but a level 9 Shadow with a couple of good tools should be able to take on pretty much all comers outside of a boss fight right now.
Yep. And Holgart looks like he is still going around doing some more looting, heading into the south figure on the World of Ruin. We'll have to see when he finishes here if he decides to follow in FiKtaH's footsteps or head to a different check. Probably the biggest question about checks right now is the floating continent, because that is the one really time consuming one of what's available. All the other checks are pretty easy to just run in, get to the boss as quick as you can. But floating continent, it does have four different bosses. There are some required battles on the airship, and then during the escape that the Muggletron won't help you with, though that can be a good opportunity to gain some levels.
Yeah, of course, if the battles are quick, you're going to fly up the leveling curve early on. That's, of course, the big thing. Right now, with the level 10 character, FiKtaH probably feeling pretty confident against most bosses here.
Yep, and we
There are
just
a few bosses that are nasty no matter what the level. Ultros is definitely not one of them.
yeah.
Uh, I cannot hear the music here, so I don't know which Ultros this is.
Well, if he
I'm
is,
guessing it's Ultros 4 based on where Ultros is sitting in the middle of the screen.
yeah, that looks like he's pushed forward a bit to make room for Funbaba. And we did see it was just an imp painting the portrait today, so this will not be a character.
Unfortunately, no. Holgart finds warp stones for sale inside World of Ruins of Figaro. So, warp stones, a very useful item in the randomizer, mostly to basically get yourself out of a dungeon very quickly after completing the check. There's a few instances where you don't just straight up get teleported out, so you want those warp stones.
And we'll have to see if that influences where he decides to go for his first checks. There's definitely a couple places that you don't really want to have to take the long walk out.
Absolutely. Esper Mountain isn't that long of a walk, but you still can use a warp stone to save yourself about 20 seconds of walking to get out. And yeah, not a difficult fight here for FiKtaH, but definitely a longer one, relying on that drill. And here's the real slap in the face. You get sneezed out, there's no experience or magic points or gold. It's just disappointing all around. Hopefully, whatever Esper item this is makes the check worthwhile. We do have another Magicite, Carbuncle Magicite, found inside of Owser's mansion.
Yeah, only has kind of niche uses. There's only a handful of times I see people really wanting that reflect effect, but it is another objective, and hopefully it'll have some useful spells.
It really doesn't. It has, well, I should not sleep that much. There's a couple of boss battles that sleep does work in, but generally sleep is not a particularly powerful status effect. And yeah, as you mentioned, Carbuncle has niche uses at best, but we're playing with elemental scaling on, so even then, I don't think you really want to use Carbuncle, as with elemental scaling on, like most bosses that have straight up reflectable spells, they're going to turn into other elemental abilities that can't be reflected at all. So what's the point, really?
Yeah, and he did go ahead and put that on Shadow. While strength doesn't have a huge impact, putting it on Shadow with that drill will help boost the damage if he keeps that on, between level 10 all the way up to level 40.
It'll make a slight difference at best. You really need to be over 100 strength for the stat to mean anything. We found our first character. We've got a blonde Setzer just taking a dirt nap here inside the Velp Cave.
Setzer is a really good one because his checks are extremely fast. He has a completely free check at the Coliseum Inn, just walk in, walk out. Daryl's Tomb is pretty quick if you know where you need to go to hit all the switches. And the Doomgaze battle is easy to get into. You just go onto the airship in the World of Ruins, search the skies, and there you are. So he is a very good character for getting a bunch of back-to-back checks completed really fast.
Rough boss showing up here early on for FiKtaH. Air Force can be quite nasty at lower levels if you don't have a really good way to defend against magic attacks. We see the dance getting busted out there. Sunbath, at least a nice party heal. Meanwhile, Holgart did a little more shopping in Albra, picked up a few pricey Super Balls, which they're basically a disposable attack item that does entirely random damage. They're nice to have very early on in the seed, but they will be eclipsed extremely quickly by any normal attacks and magics that your characters can do.
Yeah, if nothing else, they might help get through a couple of grind battles in the beginning.
Dance also has Wombat, and it looks like Air Force isn't considered a floating enemy. I know, it's weird. Float is a weird status in this game. But FiKtaH gets rid of the Air Force, so that'll be a character recruited for FiKtaH. We're going to see a Setzer and see what Setzer is capable of. Setzer's got a health command. Health is not really a primo command, but it has its uses at least early on.
Yeah, in the early game, especially if you haven't found an Esper with any healing spells, it can definitely come in handy. There's definitely, it doesn't scale really well, so you don't want to be using it in the end game most likely, but I don't think we've seen any cure spells on these Espers so far, so...
No cure spells so far. Healing in general, if you know what you're doing, can largely be avoided in the randomizer. It's all about offense. That's the name of the game in Worlds Collide. If you have good offense, you can get through anything.
And we have Holgart is now heading into Owser's mansion, so he'll be picking up his second piece of magicite there.
Yeah, using the water dance, looks like that has a heal spell on it as well.
And we'll have to see where FiKtaH decides to go next. I imagine straight to Coliseum would be the optimal choice.
Oh yeah, that is definitely the play here. We're 20 minutes in, it's time to get some checks done. Holgart's fighting this Harpy Eye inside of Owser's mansion. Holgart, unfortunately, elected not to buy the air anchor, though it looks like it wouldn't work on this Harpy Eye anyway.
We got a Strago in the Coliseum Inn with Jump. He's not normally the character you want to see that on, but depending on what the equipment options are.
And if you find one of the two great lances and he can use it, then why not, basically? I mean, Jump as a command frees up a relic slot. You don't need to use Dragoon Boots, so you can pair that Dragon Horn with something nice like an Atlas Armlet or a Gauntlet or a Hero Ring. It's good times.
One of the few times I really see value in the Gauntlet is when you have Jump, because most of the time I think people lean towards Genji Glove over the Gauntlet, but when you're jumping, it can definitely be a very nice boost to your damage output.
Yeah, Genji Glove is definitely preferable in most situations, but Genji Glove, you do need to have two good weapons to make use of it. That isn't always the case. If you only have one Illumina, you shouldn't be pairing that Illumina with a far less optimal weapon. You should just throw that Gauntlet on and two hands get it done.
Right, so we'll see where he decides to head next.
Got a Chimera showing up at the second portrait for Holgart. Holgart getting slightly more difficult enemies than FiKtaH found going through Owser's house not too long ago.
It looks like FiKtaH is heading over to Daryl's tomb. If you're already in Coliseum, this is a pretty good choice. It is a pretty quick check, and hitting it back to back when you're in the area, it does cut down on your airship travel time.
Yeah, there's a couple treasure chests inside the tomb too. Maybe you find something good, maybe you don't, but the nice thing about the chests is that they're all basically on the way. Except this one in the hidden passage, slightly out of the way, but really not more than 10 steps, so you might as well get it. Another hero ring picked up for FiKtaH. So lots of good relics available so far, Tara.
Yeah, and another good thing with Daryl's tomb is one of the locations where you can find out what your reward is before you actually fight the boss. When you go up to the tomb, it will tell you who or what is sleeping there in the tomb. If it turns out to be something that you don't want, you can just reset out, use a warp stone, head back to the surface.
Well, time to fight Ultros and Chupon for Holgart. And time to fight something for FiKtaH. It's going to be an Esper, Kieran. And the boss guarding it is Rexol and the Soul Savers.
Not a particularly difficult boss. In the vanilla game, this is definitely quite a pain because, Rexol will disappear and won't come back until you have a character on the ground. The little Soul Savers don't really do anything particularly dangerous, though. And Rexol himself, not really very strong.
No, Rexel himself not too much of a threat. The main thing with Rexel is that he can be tough to damage. He's got extremely high magical defense. As you saw, Realms Ice 3 barely scraped 4 digits. Luckily, though, at least has a drill. Drill will get you through most bosses. Not necessarily the fastest way to get through things, but drill does pierce defense, so it's quite useful for that.
Yeah, this might be a little bit of a tedious fight, but definitely won't be a difficult one.
Yeah, FiKtaH has a couple Pearl Rods in stock too, but you don't want to use those. Rexel will just gobble up that holy damage like it ain't no thing. Speaking of tedious, definitely going to be a longer battle here for Holgart as well. Only with a Bio Blaster and an Auto Crossbow, and this Water Dance not really offering much help in the way of offense.
Did he not find the drill?
Holgart did not go to Gao's dad's yet.
Oh.
Where the drill was sold. Holgart also elected not to buy an air anchor when one was on sale. Not that that would have made any particular difference in that boss fight.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see him fade Gal's father. That is usually one of the first checks people do. Maybe it just slipped his mind.
Hard to say, honestly. Well, got that Kieran Esper. We'll see what it does here. Well, nothing too interesting there. Quick has its uses. I think FiKtaH would be happier just keeping that magic +2 on Realm the entire game. Ice 3 is really all you need.
Yeah, Quick can pair really, really well with certain abilities in the end game. And it's also a really good safety, because if you get to a situation where you're starting to get some of your characters getting dropped, being able to go into that Quick and, take a moment to heal people, get them back up without them just immediately dropping again, that could be very useful.
Yeah, and FiKtaH going to the beginner's house to get those couple of quick chests there. One with a red jacket was nice, and presumably to heal up at the pot. If you're FiKtaH here, I kind of wonder what check you try to do next here. Maybe you search the skies just to get that over with, or maybe you start diving into grumpy old man Strago's checks, because that's probably where our next character is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if with Strago you have Ebbett's Rock, which is quick if a little bit tedious, searching around for the coral. The Burning House, a lot of people really don't like because it does have all those little flame enemies, many of which can't always be avoided. So a lot of people like to, put that off when possible. And there is also the Fanatic's Tower, but you do have to make sure that you've got plenty of magical offense.
Yeah, absolutely. That Ice 3 from Realm could potentially carry you through Fanatic's Tower, but if the boss is immune to ice, might be in a little bit of trouble there. So FiKtaH gonna go do the Floating Continent. I think this is a pretty solid play. There's 3 potential locations for Espers and characters. And Holgart is going to begin the battle with Air Force to rescue Setzer.
Yeah, I can definitely see Floating Continent being a good play right now. He's got, a pretty decent team right now, so these forced battles will help him gain some levels, get some MP to learn some of those spells.
Yeah, you'd like to see enemies with a little bit better experience yield than those weaklings right there, but you can't really control that. You just kind of have to deal with what the game gives you. Bunch of pipsqueaks now. Those are pretty weak enemies. Probably take them out with a single AoE spell.
Now we do see Strago seems to have come with natural magic, and I did spot a life 3 there. That is definitely a really good safety to have, especially going into the end game. You get up to tier 3 of Kefka. If you don't have a way to block Calmness, a life 3 could be a good way to keep your characters on their feet.
Yeah, it's a good insurance policy, if nothing else. Holgart going to be having another fairly lengthy battle here. That Bolt spell putting up good damage, though, striking the weakness with some really beefy magic power behind it, at least.
Yeah, when you have as little magic points as Realm has right now, having a low-level alternative can be a good option, and it did enough work to take Air Force down.
Yeah, exactly. Much better than throwing up one of those dances that doesn't have any offensive potential. There are a couple
Yeah,
of usable dances that I've seen, but the water dance that you started with is really not one of them.
yeah, Dance is really one of those largely unreliable choices because it's so random and you don't have any control of your character. I really doubt we're going to see that used much once Realm has learned a decent number of spells.
Most likely, yeah. We've got the Yeti here for FiKtaH. Gonna throw up that Kieran for some regain because why not, I guess?
Yeah, Umaro typically not a difficult fight in any location. He can be a little bit tanky, but not usually something you're too worried about.
Especially early on, because the way that physical scale in this game, physical bosses are just an absolute joke at lower levels.
Yeah.
That's a big, beefy Pearl Rod explosion, and that will take care of the Yeti in probably one shot. It did 8,000.
And that is the first battle. You get knocked off the airship. You do get, I believe, a free heal after being knocked off the airship.
Yes, you do. So you're all in tip-top shape for whatever happens next. In this case, it's a Guardian. An intimidating enemy to be sure, but not really as difficult as you'd think for it being a vanilla Kefka's Tower boss.
Yeah, it typically has a lot of hit points, but it doesn't have a great range of attack abilities. And with the damage output that we're seeing here, I doubt that FiKtaH is going to have any trouble.
I think so as well. Shouldn't be too difficult of a battle here. And quite interestingly here, looks like Gogo is on Esper Mountain, so Holgart might be on a completely different path to victory than FiKtaH here, folks.
That is very interesting. Also, FiKtaH took down the Guardian. He's actually making good use of Strago, has equipped him with one of those Pearl Rods, and that Pearl proc can happen on a jump. And I believe it does get the damage multiplier.
It certainly does. So,
and then he has
yeah.
picked up the Ragnarok Esper, so not all that useful to summon, but we'll have to see what kind of spells that has to offer. Meanwhile, Holgart running into Funbaba.
Yeah, Funbaba not going to be a particularly difficult battle for Holgart, I don't think so. A couple of those big Ice 3 spells and he should just run for the hills.
I'll be curious to see with that Go-Go if Holgart chooses to go check out the Zone Eater check. That's another one that it can be really, really fast as long as those little green guys on the bridge leave you alone.
Yeah, Zone Eater not a popular place to go. What kind of plays in its favor here, though, is that after finding a character, if you think you're on the path to find characters, I mean, Go-Go only has the one check. So we know that there are other characters available, but in this case, Holgart doesn't, so might be thinking, well, it's Go-Go. Go-Go is going to lead to character number 5, so I should go do that right away.
And it's also someplace that you definitely want to have a warp stone available to get out.
Yeah, that helps immensely. That saves basically a full minute of walking out.
And it looks like that Ragnarok didn't have anything good, but it is a magic power boost, so FiKtaH slapped that right on Realm. Probably keep that on her for a while unless he finds a magic power +2 as alternative.
We do already have a magic power +2 Esper, but that one's being passed around so everyone can pick up that Ice 3 spell at the present here.
Yeah. Probably will end up on Realm after everybody else is done with it.
Chances are good. Looks like FiKtaH's Realm already has about 90 magic power. You don't need to go completely overboard. We've got a Ghost Train here. This is one-hit killable. And yep, here comes the Air Anchor, so that is a dead train.
Yeah, Ghost Train is one of those bosses that even if you can't do the Phoenix Down trick, it is almost always really easy. But every once in a while, it will get that evil toot off and muddle half your party and lead to a wipe. So 9 times out of 10, complete breeze. That other time, you absolutely hate him.
Yeah, confuse one of the most deadly bad statuses in this game for sure. Since your characters often deal more damage than the enemies, it's pretty bad. Dragonhorn found for Holgard inside Esper Mountain. We know that we've got a natural jumper, so that's a pretty great accessory in this seed.
Yep, we'll have to see if he goes and finds that Strago soon. Strago with Dragonhorn, especially combined with that Pearl Rod and the chance for Pearl Proc on every jump, could be quite powerful.
Well, you'd much rather a Pearl Lance, but that's up to the RNG gods if Strago's able to use one of those good lances or not.
And FiKtaH did pick up a Raiden Esper with Flare and Meteor. And Meteor, while not as powerful as it could be, is a really solid AoE spell. You also want to make sure that you do have some non-elemental options, because, some battles, especially tier 3 of Kefka, that Ice 3 is not going to be reliable.
Meteor decent for packs of random enemies, at least, I suppose. It's a really, really weak spell, though. It has less attack power than a level 2 spell does. It just ignores defense, so it might seem like it's a little more powerful than it is at times.
FiKtaH is almost done with the Floating Continent now. Just going up against Tunnel Armor, another piece of cake fight.
Yeah, Tunnel Armor, an absolute joke. Probably the single weakest boss that you can face in this randomizer.
It looks like Holgard is heading to Coliseum to pick up his Strago. Probably be very happy to see that jump ability. Strago's not the best character to have jump on, but with a Dragonhorn, he can do alright.
And if he can wear a lance, he's the best character to have it on. That's really all there is to it. If you're jumping, you want a lance.
And just a ghost on the Floating Continent for FiKtaH, so we'll see that is the Magicite Siren. Siren is a really good one to find because that's that silence effect. You get up to tier 2 of the final battle. That's going to be a very good way to shut down magic.
Interesting stat boost on Siren, HP plus 100%. That is probably my favorite Esper boost. HP is probably the most tangible of all the different numbers that you can get boosted by an Esper. And FiKtaH now going to be heading up Esper Mountain again. Picks up that Ice Shield at the start, and, well, we know that it is going to be a Go-Go recruited after defeating Funbaba. So FiKtaH off to a slight lead over Holgard here. Will be the same amount of characters, but more Espers for FiKtaH thus far. And yeah, Strago immediately getting that Dragonhorn.
It looks like he put one on Setzer as well with a pair of Dragoon boots.
Yeah, and FiKtaH is going to have a much quicker battle against Funbaba here. FiKtaH with considerably better offense than Holgard. at the moment here. Those two big tools picked up for FiKtaH really making a huge difference. And
And
of course, the inflated level means that those level 3 spells are going to be hitting much, much harder right now.
yes, and FiKtaH is making pretty good efficiency on his checks. He's already up to 6 pieces of Magicite. This will be his 5th character, so definitely making a good pace. We'll have to see whether that holds up, if he can continue making the right plays. But very good routing from him so far throughout this scene.
Yeah, Holgart's gonna go to Daryl's tomb now. Forgot to put a Moogle Charm on someone. I'd say Shadow would be the choice here. He's got an Atlas Armlet and a Hero Ring on. Those do not stack for physical damage.
Yeah, it's always that thing whenever you switch your party, and if you get the person you just switched out was the one with the Moogle charm, and I think that happens to all of us at some point or another.
Well, single character for FiKtaH means FiKtaH is gonna go inside the belly of the beast.
Yeah, this is a pretty good play, I think. I know it's not a popular choice, but it can be really quick if you're good at dodging the um, the green guys. And he did make the smart choice, dropping down to just Realm, so that you don't have to wait for all 4 characters to get eaten.
Exactly. You typically always want to take a solo character into the Zone Eater. And I think I agree with this play at this point because your other options are all Strago checks, which are going to be potentially longer than this one, and Kefka Nourish, which takes a while to walk up to, walk through, and walk back out of because you can't use Warp in World of Balance Nourish. Not saving at the save point is FiKtaH here, so don't get crushed.
Yeah, Kefka at Narsh is a check that really tends to pair much better if you have either Terror or Mog to be able to hit their checks along the way.
Yeah, that's usually the most optimal way to do a Kefka at Nourish is if you have either, or ideally both, of those characters in your party.
And
Got some
Holgart has
monster in a
found,
box fishing for Holgart, and it is a Katana Soul.
yeah, that will give him an offering. Then it just becomes a question of whether he has a really good option of how he wants to, set that up. He does have a Genji glove, but it
Well,
depends on what kind
Holgart
of
does know
weapons.
that those snipers are available for sale in World of Balance Miranda. Sniper, a pretty good weapon to pair with offering, truthfully.
And FiKtaH, meanwhile, found Umaro in the Zone Eater. Um, Not a bad choice, I think, to go to Narsh for that right now, because on your way to Umaro's cave, you do have the Tritok fight, and that can pick you up another piece of Magicite.
Yeah, it's definitely the place to head to next. You've got the dragon if you want to take a stab for some big experience and a really nice item. Holgart making use of confusion off of Stray to get Katana Soul to one-hit kill itself. That is the best way to deal with Katana Soul, is to confuse it, as it will use that instant death physical. So really heads up play there by Holgart.
FiKtaH, meanwhile, has searched the skies and found Dullahan. Not a particularly tough fight under most circumstances.
Yeah, unfortunately, Doulahan does absorb ice, as FiKtaH finds out here, so gonna have to be a little more creative on offense to get through this thing. Drill, of course, works on everything, so that's never bad.
And I believe Dullahan is weak against Pearl, so if Strago is still jumping with that Pearl Rod, that actually could work pretty well.
Uh, Doulahan isn't considered undead and isn't actually weak to Pearl, but it's still a
No?
solid option. The
Okay.
weakness is fire for this
Ah,
boss.
okay.
Holgart runs into Rexel. That lack of drill really, really affecting his Shadow's offense. And Ice 3, as we saw before, the damage is going to get cut severely by Rexel's extremely high magic defense.
Yeah, this isn't by any means a difficult fight. He did actually just break out 2,000 damage with that Ice 3, so...
Yeah, but that's an Ice 3 hitting a weakness on a character with about 90
yeah.
magic power. So,
Yeah, it'll be a little bit slow, but definitely doable.
oh, absolutely, yeah. Rexel doesn't really have a whole lot dangerous in the way of offense, thankfully.
And
It's a nuisance boss, is what it is, really.
yes, indeed. And FiKtaH has gotten through that Dullahan fight, got a piece of Magicite there, that will be his 7th, and it is a Unicorn. Another one of those, useful in certain niche situations.
Victor's
And
gonna
he
go
is,
have a quick peek inside of the Mesa World of Ruin.
might be planning on hitting the burning house while he's in the area.
Maybe, looks like really just wants to pick up some more pearl rods. All right, and that is a defeated Rexel for Holgart and Kieran Magicite acquired.
Yeah, Holgart definitely does have a bit in catching up to do. FiKtaH already has all 6 required characters and is only missing 3 pieces of Magicite. I wouldn't be surprised if he started checking things like the auction house or um, that Tritalk spot because, if you don't need any more characters, it makes a lot of sense to go after the locations that are more likely to have Magicite.
I think at this point it depends on how comfortable are with your party's levels and gear. So, like at level 29, if I'm FiKtaH, like I think I'm gonna do exactly what FiKtaH's doing. Head through World of Ruin Narsh. I'd probably try to fight the dragon on the way, gain 4 or 5 levels out of that. Maybe a really nice item. Seems to me a really solid choice here for FiKtaH.
Yeah, and he
Holgart
definitely.
finally going to Gao's dad's mansion.
Oh,
So that drill will be acquired here.
I bet you he's going to be kicking himself when he realizes he could have had this a long, long time
He could
ago.
have had that drill 45 minutes ago, yes, and that really would have made a huge difference for Holgard, being forced to use that auto crossbow or the bioblaster on so many of those early bosses.
Yeah. And we'll see now. FiKtaH's reached the snowfield. We'll see whether he opts to take on that dragon battle. He definitely has enough offense that, depending on the dragon, I imagine he could get through it, even with dragons not being scaled.
Well, I think with all the fire resist and ice 3 spells, I'd try to fight that dragon for sure. If it's the fire dragon, you've got a free win right there, so that's pretty nice. Victor runs into Doom at the Tritalk spot.
Ooh. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Doom is one of the ones that absorbs ice.
Yes, that's correct. Doom unfortunately absorbs ice, but is weak to Pearl. And guess who just bought 5 or 6 Pearl Rods?
Pearl rods in particular are especially useful here because partway through the fight, he will throw up a reflect spell, and so since rods bypass that, that's definitely a good option. He's also putting a pearl rod back on Strago. Gonna be jumping with that pearl rod should do pretty decent damage. And Holgart has
Here
popped
comes
in.
the Pearl Rod snap. This is going to do probably, if there wasn't a damage cap, this would do probably close to 20,000 damage with Realm's astronomical magic power and level on this seed.
Yes. Meanwhile, Holgart has gone into Ebbets Rock. He is on a coral hunt. Yeah, and got quad 9s on that Pro Ad from Realm. Finished Doom off before her grandfather could even finish his jump.
Well, that old man is quite slow. Well, Doom is complete. Now it's on to Doom 2, Hell on Earth.
And we did get a piece of Magicite there, and
The
that,
Emperor Magicite, everyone's favorite summon.
yes, that is one of the best options for calmness protection in the final battle.
Holgart getting trolled massively here inside Ebbets Rock. Gets punted back to the chest a couple times without enough coral. and now finally gets back to the chest. Boss is Doomgaze.
And then you have that
Open with a
moment
level
of tension.
15 Doom. What level is Holgart? Not level 5, thankfully.
There's always that moment that you're holding your breath, trying to think, what level am I? What level am I?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Doom, yet another boss that absorbs ice. We've seen a lot of these so far, Tara.
Well, I would rather get them out of the way, really. Oh, and we did get the red dragon on the ice field there, so
Red Dragon is probably the primo dragon to run into. This is going to be a very, very easy fight for FiKtaH. Hopefully the reward is nice because its drop, the Strato, is bro fodder, basically.
yeah, but the XP will be very nice. I'm sure that's what he's most interested in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you're this close to having all the requirements, you definitely want to get some XP in there. Most players really like to be about level 40 when going through FiKtaH's tower in the final battle. Right now, FiKtaH at about level 29, so big experience from the dragon will go a long way towards remedying that level deficiency.
Holgart is having a bit of a struggle with that Doom Gaze. Um, looks like he's getting knocked around quite a bit.
Oh, look at that. The reward from Red Dragon is a gem box. Throw
Oh,
that thing on Realm and never take it off.
oh yes, that is going to be massive. Especially, that's one of those times I like to pair that with that quick spell. Throw an ice 3 in the quick, and then a couple more ice 3s, and then a couple more ice 3s.
Yeah, absolutely. You could one-shot almost every boss in the game with that combo.
Yep.
It's 50,000 damage a turn. Alright, off to Umaro's Cave now is FiKtaH. Putting up some Life 3 protection with Strago here against Doomgaze. Pretty good choice. Ooh, a Valiant Knife is discovered here. And Shadow is able to use it. FiKtaH's character who was wearing that HP plus 100 Esper. But so can Setzer, so probably a better choice to give it to Setzer here, as Shadow does have that ever so useful drill.
And we did spot an offering earlier. I don't remember whether FiKtaH was the one that saw where that was.
Oh yeah, they've both seen the offering for sale into Zen as they've both picked up that Esper now.
Yeah, Valiant Knife is one of those times you really want to use that. If I recall I'm not sure if I'm correct on the damage mechanics, but because Valiant Knife adds your missing hit points on top of the damage, even with the normal half damage effect from the offering, you're going to just be dishing out massive amounts of damage.
Yeah, that HP loss penalty isn't affected by the offering. The Valiant Knife is just tailor-made for the offering. It's such a good combination.
We do have Inferno showing up on FiKtaH's side. Hopefully he has a decent amount of elemental protection still in his characters. He is off to a bit of a rough start.
Ate some big attacks early on, did FiKtaH, but good use of that air anchor to get rid of those arms. And Inferno not immune to ice, so should just be one more big casting from Realm to finish off the boss here. Meanwhile, Holgart still battling it out with Doomgaze. Doomgaze, just a bad matchup for this party right now. Shadow's Drill, the only thing really doing any damage right now.
Have any really good fire magic to hit that weakness, and I don't know if he has any more pearl rods. I know they are available for sale, but I didn't see if he went back to buy any more.
I don't think Holgart has found the pearl rods for sale as of yet.
Yeah, they would definitely
Holgart
come
in
in
tough here against Doomgaze, but fighting it out. It's a winnable battle. Just got to keep on top of your revives, and you'll eventually get this thing done. Doomgaze, another boss with infuriatingly high defense and magic defense, so really that drill is going to be doing most of the work here for FiKtaH. And Sabin is recruited for FiKtaH after defeating the boss.
He doesn't need any more characters, but Sabin is a good one for opening up very, very quick checks.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. All of Sabin's checks are quite fast.
yeah, you can
The
hit.
longest one being the Phantom Train, but with the train, you can see the reward before you commit to it. You can just reset right out of the train if it's not what you want. As,
And
as, as far as checks go, I have to say Sabin is probably the best character in terms of quick, easy checks.
yeah,
Holgart is going to recruit an Edgar here. Edgar's checks are nice in that you can do all three of them on one quick run.
yeah, the Figaro throne check is completely free. And if you go to the castle basement, there is one boss battle there. But when you go down to the ancient castle, there's no boss there. You can just, there's an optional dragon fight if you wanted to take it for the XP. But other than that, you can just get
Looks like
in and out.
Holgart has had enough of Tools Guy and is going to take an Edgar with Shock into the party. Shock, of course, a very nice command. It's entirely based around magic power, though. FiKtaH is going to reset out of Tizen. Don't need any more characters after all.
Yeah, I didn't catch which character was holding up the house.
I saw it out of the corner of my eye, so I'm not positive who it was either.
Um, Chad is telling us that it's Locke.
You know, I think I might have just completed the house to pick up Locke there. Locke does have two pretty quick checks, and if you want to take a gamble on the Curse Shield only being 4 battles, there's that available as well. Here's
Yeah,
FiKtaH back to the Relic Shop, as we mentioned into Zen. So going to be selling the farm here to pick up that offering for Setzer to swing that Valiant Knife around with reckless abandon.
yeah, definitely a good call, especially this close to the final battle. He's going to just be tearing things apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you definitely want to give Setzer, well, Setzer at level 37 isn't going to gain too many more levels, but you could at least try to boost his hit points a little bit to take some more advantage of the Valiant Knife. And, you know, on top of that extra damage that the Valiant Knife get, it ignores defense. It's a really, really good weapon.
Yeah, it's one of those that I don't think I properly appreciated when I played the vanilla game, but
Yeah, the vanilla game is kind of weird with some of Locke's better weapons. By the time you have Locke, you've already got a wing edge, and that's what the game wants to put on him. But you're far better off using a Valiant Knife or a Sniper on Locke.
alright,
And I
so
mean,
we'll see
if you get a
where.
Ragnarok or Illumina, nothing compares, so there's that option too.
So it looks like FiKtaH is going to go peek at the Phantom Train, and we'll see whether he decides to actually do the full train. The
I'm pretty sure it's Esper or bust for FiKtaH at this point. Any Esper, FiKtaH will finish the train. Otherwise, reset.
and then the other advantage Sabin gives is that he has back-to-back checks here where you can hit the Phantom Train, the Imperial Base, and the waterfall all right in that same little area. So it's very quick to go from one to the other.
Absolutely. Phantom Train had a Ragnarok sword. Tough to reset out of that one, but you're already sitting good with an extremely powerful caster, an offering Valiant Knife user, and some good old tools for good measure. So don't really need that Ragnarok, though it would have been nice. And FiKtaH now going back to World of Ruin to Zen, so we are going to see Locke getting picked up here.
Yeah, I think
Really not a bad choice because Locke has two extremely quick checks. One of them is you go into a weapon shop, and the other one is you go through a 2-screen cave and fight a boss.
yeah, and the weapon shop in Narsh, super quick, and when you only need 2 pieces of magicite, that would definitely be a good call. Um, and the Phoenix Cave, of course, is another one with there is an optional dragon boss, but you don't need to fight it if you don't want to.
Nope,
Meanwhile, it
that's
looks like
not. We've got
Holgart picked up.
we've got Seraphim Magic now for Holgart off the Figaro throne, and we spotted one of the most dangerous enemies in the game inside of the Zen house. Forgetting to put a Moogle charm on was FiKtaH and ran into an Intanginer. Luckily, they're extremely easy to escape from.
Yeah, that's not an enemy that you see all that often.
Yeah, Intanginers, extremely dangerous enemies. They do nothing but spam Meteo at your party, absorb all elements, have huge defense. They're just not pleasant at all. Looks like Holgart just taking a minute to think, where should I go next? And back to the world of ruin for Holgart. At least going to heal up, presumably, at the training house here. FiKtaH, meanwhile, flying around the world, also heading to Narsh, probably just for the quick heal and then move on to something else.
Yeah, well, FiKtaH, of course, is gonna come check the Ragnarok spot. Might not bother with the Cursed Shield this late in the game. We'll see if he at least takes a peek at it.
Yeah, this late in, it's real hard to justify it. Well, there's Esper number 9. It's Tri-Talk Esper for FiKtaH, so only one more to go here. And plenty of quick options available. Looks
Yeah, this is around the time that a lot of runners might choose to hit up the auction house. Because when you only need an Esper, you've got a decent chance of finding one there. If you don't get trolled too much, if you see Imp Robot 9 times in a row, it's gonna be a bit of a pain, but
Yeah, 8 battles on that curse shield, so I really doubt FiKtaH is going to put any effort into uncursing it at this point.
yeah,
And
it's
Sarah, I would
the-
like you to just cover for me for a couple of minutes. I've got a phone call I unfortunately have to take here.
no problem. Um, and this would actually be a good time to remember to give a shout out to our Restream team. Um, we do have Brianna Fofana hit doing the restream for us today. You know, always I believe this might even be the first time that she has done that for us, so definitely give her some love for, stepping out and, you know, being there when we needed her at the last minute. We also have Ceiling Cat doing the extremely difficult job of tracking that I can almost never keep up with. But yeah, keeping an eye on both screens at a time, always making sure to be on top of who has completed which checks is a very challenging job, so please send her some love. And then we have Holgart has finished off the Dullahan fight, and we see FiKtaH is going up against Ifrit. That Ice 3 spell should make very short work of him. And Ifrit is down before Shiva even got a chance to come out and say hello. And did find the Magicite Starlet. And that is definitely what FiKtaH was looking for. Looks like Holgard is now going to head for the Zone Eater check, while FiKtaH looks like he's just checking his equipment and Esper setup and doing his prep to head on towards Kefka's Tower. He's got decent levels. Looks like most of his team is around level 38. We'll get up above 40 from the bosses in the Kefka's Tower, so should be well prepared. Holgart doing his best to dodge those guys on the bridges, managed to get through. And FiKtaH is getting on his airship. We'll see if he feels the need to do any last minute shopping or if he's just going to head straight there. Looks like he feels like he is fully prepared and is going to head down to FiKtaH's tower. And at only 1 hour 8 minutes, this is definitely a pretty good pace. If he doesn't run into any really rude bosses, he's heading for 135, 140. So hopefully he doesn't run into anything too nasty, though it is worth noting we have not found some of the nastier bosses out there. There's still the possibility of running into Magimaster. We've only seen one of the statues so far, so the other two might show up here. So we'll have to
Exactly.
see.
And the one statue we've seen is the easy one, so Goddess and Spicy Chicken still potential threats as FiKtaH begins to explore Kefka's tower. Holgart, meanwhile, still needs another 5 Espers to get into Kefka's tower, so FiKtaH's starting to run away with this one a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I do believe Holgart did spend a little bit more time on his looting early on, and that might have cost him a little bit of time. But the runners did go on different paths and ended up with different characters available, and that can certainly make a difference as well.
So FiKtaH making quick work, running through the tower, looking like not going to bother fighting any dragons here, and at this point you probably don't need to. Level's looking pretty comfortable in the high 30s. You've got a great caster, great attacker, a couple of good utility characters. You should be fine.
Yeah, with Realm and Sensor should be able to basically handle all the damage output, and your other characters can keep people healed, throw up those defenses. I don't imagine he's going to have too much of a problem.
No, definitely not. Especially with that air anchor, that's free 80,000 damage against 2 of the 10 targets in the final battle.
And we have Holgart heading down into the Figaro Castle basement. This is a pretty good call because this will also lead into the Ancient Castle, which is a completely free check down there.
Yeah, free check. Also a dragon down there if you want to take a little bit of an experience point gamble.
And
Number 24 for FiKtaH is not going to be an issue at all.
for just a second, I thought he had hit Magimaster, and it would have been really entertaining, though.
Entertaining for us at least, maybe not so much for FiKtaH.
Well, with that Valiant Knife offering, I really don't think Magimaster would even be that tough for him.
No, likely not. You have a way to at least get some damage in on the boss, and pretty decent elemental protection around. We've got a Dataluma sighting inside the Figaro engine room for Holgart.
And should make pretty short work of this boss. He will definitely be hoping to find some Magicite here.
Reward is unfortunately just a red cap, so no Magicite for Holgart yet again. Does pick up an air anchor out of the statue. Remember, Holgart did not buy an air anchor early on, so pretty nice treasure to find.
Yeah, the red cap, I mean, as hats go, it is a decent one, but it's definitely not what you're hoping for. especially this far into the seed. And FiKtaH is going through the little switch puzzle and is about to enter the gauntlet. 4 final battles to take care of before getting to Kefka himself. So we'll see what these spots have and hold for him.
Yeah, always interesting to see what bosses you run into.
And there's always
his best characters pretty well here, so should be well equipped for just about anything that he could run into.
Yeah, there is always a concern sometimes about if you sent a character to the right that you should have sent to the left, but Chatteranok definitely not something that he should have any trouble with.
No, definitely not. Chatteranok, another one of those bosses that's more annoying than threatening.
We have Holgart heading over towards Thamasa. See if maybe he's thinking about taking on the burning house.
I think that's exactly what Holgart's going to be doing here.
Definitely not a quick check, considering how hard it could be to dodge some of these flames.
Yeah, and looks like there's going to be a whole bunch of intangers in here, so nothing really worth fighting as far as the flames go.
Fortunately, he is able to run away from them.
Yeah, they start to sleep and won't actually damage you, so the escape is free, it's just a time waster. Fossil Fangs aren't a bad enemy to run into in the earlier to mid part of a seed. They're pretty easy to take out if you got lots of Revivifies, decent experience in gold.
And FiKtaH has gotten through the first fight there without any real trouble.
Yeah, pretty short work of Chatteranok there with those Pearl Rods and the Valiant Knife Swings.
Found a Moogle suit in that last little hidden chest.
And... Oh no, not the leader! Not the leader!
Oh my goodness, yeah, this is about as free gets.
We've got a zombie old man over on Holgart's side there. Those Fossil Fangs do have access to a zombie physical, which is always a dangerous proposition.
Definitely one of the more annoying status ailments.
Yeah, absolutely. Those Fossil Fangs will be a decent way for Holgart to power up his party a little bit here. But I think you have to think it's probably too little too late at this point for Holgart. FiKtaH comfortably in control of this race right now.
Yeah, especially with so far no real troubles on these boss battles at Kefka's Tower. It is a very solid lead.
And looks like FiKtaH is taking a quick break to collect himself here, perhaps? We are about an hour 15 into the seed, so I suppose a bio break not out of the question right now. These are sync races though, so time ticking away for FiKtaH here. It's not like an async where you can just complete it at your own pace.
Well, maybe he's feeling comfortable with his time and feels like he's ahead enough that he can manage it.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I mean, we know that FiKtaH is quite comfortably ahead. FiKtaH doesn't necessarily know it himself, but on pace for comfortable sub 140, so probably feeling pretty good about his chances.
Yes, indeed.
Just gonna give Shadow's back up some token equipment here, looks like.
I would say of
With
any of his
boss, Shadow
parties,
has to face.
yeah, of any of his parties, this is the one that has the most potential to have trouble with a rude boss. Um, Shadow does have that drill. Against Ultros, of course. Luckily, it won't be any issue, but
No, Ultros 3 looks like, based on the formation.
but that is definitely fortunate because this is not the party you would want to hit a really rude boss with.
No, absolutely not.
Shadow's got okay damage output with that drill, but nowhere near as much as what the other parties are capable of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 3,000 nothing to sneeze at, but I mean, it is endgame. The drill is okay, but it's not world-beating in terms of damage anymore. But for an easier boss like this, it'll definitely get the job done. And Ultros likes to buff himself with safe, and drill ignores defense. It's not going to do nothing against that.
And Holgart has found the goddess fight in the Burning House.
Yeah, this one actually a pretty decent matchup for Holgart, though. Those ice spells will work here. And not overly relying on the fight command, so Love Token not really going to factor into this battle. Just going to be able to pound away with Ice 3s, jumps, and shocks.
Yeah, and definitely dishing out looks like some pretty hefty damage there.
FiKtaH, again, electing a kind of wasteful relic setup on Shadow there. Has a Hero Ring and an Atlas Armlet. You only need one of those. They do not stack.
It's possible he just might not realize that.
Yeah, something we'll ask about post-race if we have time for an interview with either of our racers, which I think we probably will. Got a Tri-Talk battle here for Team Realm. So one of the few situations where casting Flare is a defensible choice.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any other really powerful elemental spells besides that Ice 3.
Yeah,
But
and
Flare
running
will
into
get the
a
job
lot
done.
of ice immune or absorbing bosses on this speed, so kind of cruel when you have a nice big level 3 spell, but you don't really get to bust it out all that often.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, in
Realm
final
is
battle, it'll be just fine, though,
yeah,
at least.
Realm is hitting 8,000 damage with that flare though, so I don't think only took a single double cast. Meanwhile, Holgar is finding Celeste in the Burning House. Um, Another good character for quick checks. The basement cell in South Figaro is completely free. And if you're mostly looking for Magicite, the Magitech Research Facility can be a good option because
Yeah.
you can
And
get
Celes comes with Throw. I'm kind of surprised Holgart didn't swap out one of the party members for her. Throw is pretty much the strongest damage-dealing command outside of the fighter magic commands, so Throw really nice. But yeah, as you mentioned, Celes at least has one extremely quick check, and if you're on an Esper hunt, which we are at this point, you can do the first 2/3 of the Magitech facility and then just warp stone out. Those first two checks can't be characters after all. So all in all, not a terrible pickup for Holgart here, but Holgart most likely not going to be able to catch up to FiKtaH, who's on a pretty torrid pace here tonight.
Yep, looks like he's just checking his equipment one last time and making sure that he's prepared for the final fight.
Yeah, and looks like just gave Locke some equipment. Locke probably would be the number 5 as a backup in case someone gets taken out. Yeah, I mean, you get an item bot with a snow muffler on, so that's pretty handy.
And Holgard has found the offering in the Figaro basement, so there was a
That
free
is,
one available, but
that's not really what we wanted to see, though. Holgart needs Espers yesterday.
yeah.
Final battle about to begin for FiKtaH here. Well, FiKtaH's roster is set. It's time to begin the final battle.
Yeah, I think he's definitely very well geared for this. There's always the possibility that something rude could happen, but I
Yeah.
would not expect him to have too much trouble here with the extremely good offensive options.
Yeah, Raiden successfully lands, so no need to air anchor the hand here. And just start pounding away with big magic. Looks like Realm did pick up Fire 3 just in time for the final battle, so useful here against the face at least. Interesting enough though, FiKtaH didn't use the gem box, so no double casting from Realm.
It's possible he was more concerned about setting her up with a defensive item. Looks like she is wearing the Marvel shoes.
Yeah, certainly does look that way, Terra, so not necessarily a bad choice. I mean, outside Realm and Setzer, FiKtaH is a little lacking on offense for this final battle, so maybe a little bit of defensive thought put into the relics definitely helps out here if the battle's going to take a little bit longer, not just going to walk all over everything there. Well, tier 1 down, Setzer took a huge physical hit there, but able to hang on, and especially nice that Setzer's now at crit HP. He'll be swinging about 5, maybe 6,000 a hit with those quad Valiant swings now.
Now, hopefully, he can keep him from dropping. A Life 3 spell on Setzer in particular would be an extremely good choice because of everybody you have, you don't want him going down before the final phase.
Yeah, gonna bust out that Siren spell right away on Shadow, unfortunately, so not able to pair it with an air anchor and effectively take 2 pieces out of the fight right away. We got Tyrannosaurs for HolgartLive up on the rafters in the Opera House. A pretty good experience monster, actually, if you're confident enough to take them down. And with those Ice 3 spells, probably could have made mincemeat out of them. And yet you called it, Terra. Here comes the Life 3 for Setzer to just keep banging out those big Valiant Knife hits. There's the air anchor to get rid of the tools part in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, Life 3 is a really good defense throughout the final battle in particular, but with Setzer especially, since you want him to stay fairly low hit points, and that's a really big risk if you don't have that Life 3 up. But he's swinging for
A risk
almost...
that pays off, though. Almost 5,000 a hit on those Valiant Knife swings.
Yeah, he's going to make short work of these enemies here.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, no fire immunity on Setzer, so Setzer's going to go down to that Southern Cross. But really shouldn't be in too bad here against Tier 2. Has lots of beefy ice magic to get rid of Tiger, who's the real big threat in this fight.
Yep, and slapping that Life 3 on Setzer immediately again. Meanwhile, Holgart has found the senior behemoth fight.
The Strontium Behemoth has been found in the Opera House, and using the cave dance, which is why we see a little different background action going on there. Here comes the 10 hits now for FiKtaH. Setzer's gonna go down, come back from a Life 3, still more hits to come out, so is gonna have to revive Setzer manually. But I believe the magic part's still alive, so we'll be able to keep Setzer's big damage going into Tier 3.
And he did cast that Siren to silence magic, so that'll give him time to get his party back on their feet.
Yeah, set yourself up however you want, heal who you want to heal. I wouldn't recommend throwing up buffs here, though, because the magic part will still get its D-spells off whenever it's finally killed.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to focus on getting some healing back up. Might decide to refresh those Life 3s.
Hologart finds another character, Mog. So 9 characters now for Holgart. This seed not being kind and dishing out espers for Holgart at all.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that the runners went on very different paths pretty early on, and Holgart has been pretty efficient in checking a lot of his checks and just getting bad luck with not finding what he needs.
And Holgart, just wanting to make sure that the contents of the bucket were safe for human consumption before drinking it there, talked to the man next to it who assured him, yes, this is indeed water from a healing spring. Holgart, gonna have to turn around right quick, do have to actually go to the treasure room to start the Lone Wolf sequence here.
And we have FiKtaH is now on tier 3. Looks like he's holding off a little bit on his offense, trying to be careful about, you know, picking his targets well. The one disadvantage you get with that offering is you can't choose who you're attacking, and you definitely want to take Lady down before sleep.
Yeah, it'll just keep healing it up with Pearl Wind, or worse, revive it with Life 2. So you definitely need to take the girl down first. And girl is immune to all of the elements, so this is another one of those rare situations where casting Flare is somewhat justified. And tossing an elixir there just to restore NP for Realm. Here comes the Fenrir. So after this, probably going to be a follow-up attack from Setzer here. With luck, that'll take care of Sleep outright. If not, the next hit will do it. Ooh, here's a Merton, though. That's going to throw a bit of a wrench into the plan here. That is going to take out Setzer. And Setzer no longer an image status, at risk of getting Calmness here.
And there was always that risk with the end here when sleep will start breaking out, the
And
train,
another
and
character for Holgart off of the Mog check. I mean, it is
oh,
Best Girl Terra, but we don't need more characters. We need Espers.
yeah, that is really unfortunate, and there's nothing he can really do about that. It's not, you know, anything that is affected by the decisions he's made. It's just that the seed is not being kind right now.
Uh, oh, things starting to go a little tits up here for FiKtaH in Tier 3. Here come all the Meteos. Shadow and Sets are both down. Only one character left with an image status here. Realm at 2 seconds on that death counter is probably going to need to be revived as well.
Yeah, this is a really tough situation to be in because, you kind of need to just power through this last phase on sleep.
Well,
Um,
there's the heads up play by FiKtaH to heal the boss to get it out of its Meteo phase while you pick up the rest of your team.
Yeah, that is definitely a really good choice there. Yeah, you don't want to be on that counterattack phase when you're trying to get everybody back up because you just end up in an endless cycle of get people up and then they go back down again, and that's not what you want to deal with.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to keep up with that, especially with the lack of really powerful healing options here. No Mega Elixirs, no Cure 3s, so it's all going to be single target. And looks like FiKtaH down to his last Elixir here, actually.
Yeah, so he
So
definitely needs to play it
dangerous time
careful.
here. It's going to get quite interesting for FiKtaH to finish off this final battle. Realm getting a countdown again shouldn't matter at this point. Just needs to get some life 3s up, and then a big attack from Setzer will probably do it. Atma Weapon easily dispatched by Holgart in the Kefka at Narsh sequence. Hopefully we get an Esper out of this and not some junk item. Holgart's still sitting at 5 Espers and has been for over a half hour now, I think.
Yeah, and he's completed plenty of checks during that time.
And
Um,
Sleep gets off a whirlwind just to make things even more disgusting here. Calmness is going to take Realm out. Luckily, the Life 3 was up. Follow up Calmness is blocked by Shadow. So FiKtaH going to keep his best party going into the final battle, but very, very low on healing items here. FiKtaH really needs to defeat Kefka before that Goner spell gets off, or else it's game over, I think.
and Holgard has gotten through the Kefka Nosh fight and did find a piece of Magicite, so the seed finally decided not to be quite so rude. But he still has 4 to go.
Yeah, and Holgart does in fact, go back to recruit Terra. I mean, it's a pretty decent choice. You can at least do the Welk check on the way out. Terra only has GP Rain, not a particularly useful command at this late point in the seed. She does have higher than average magic power at 43, but pretty set with your team already. Not really the time to be trying to train up more characters.
Yes, definitely. And FiKtaH is now onto Kefka himself, doing pretty good damage with Setzer there with those swings. Looks like taking out one of his last Pearl Rods. Already about halfway through Kefka's hit point count, so he
Yeah,
might just decide to YOLO it.
yeah, so here's the end comes beyond. Like, this is it. Like, you need to defeat Kefka here, or else you're not going to win the fight. I mean, the damage output is good. This is going to be about 60k here after this Pearl Rod. No, I think this Pearl Rod should do it. If not, he does have a couple more attacks. FiKtaH should be fine. Yeah, and there it is. FiKtaH hang on with no healing items and finishes in first place with an official time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 9 seconds. Good game to you, FiKtaH.
Yeah, let's definitely get some love for him in chat. That was definitely a rough end of this fight there. You know, that tier 3 really looked like it wasn't going to end well, but he played it smart, he got through it, and that was extremely well done.
Yeah, really, really good play to throw a couple Revivifies at the boss there, just to heal it up, get out of that dangerous Meteo zone, and get back on your feet, at least somewhat. That last Whirlwind spell making things interesting, but FiKtaH able to deal enough damage to get Kefka out before Goner goes off.
Yes, and a 134 is definitely an excellent time under any circumstances. Definitely an excellent display here by FiKtaH today.
And just seeing if FiKtaH would like to join us for a quick post-race chat. No word just yet, but in the meantime, Holgart still is going to finish things off here. We've got the treasure room inside the sealed gate, quite late in a seed compared to what you'd normally see. Most interesting thing I've seen in here so far seems to be a Thunder Rod. There's a Tack Star there. We do have a Thrower, but Holgart elected not to put Celies into the party.
I mean, this late in the scene, I would probably not even be doing any more looting. Like, he's got to feel, after all those dead checks, that he's kind of behind pace right now. So, might see if he decides.
If Holgart's looking at the race room, they'd know that the race part is effectively over at this point. It's just about finishing up strong here is what it is now for Holgart. Into the bottom floor of the sealed gate now. Just a leisurely stroll to the end.
Yeah, this is, especially early on, an extremely good check because not only is there all that treasure there, but there's no boss battle, so completely free.
Yeah, and if you want to take a gamble, those soldier enemies inside the base infinitely respawn and could be a decent spot to grind a couple of quick levels depending on what the encounters are. That was a pretty common strategy in the earlier days of this randomizer before character gating. Go to the sealed gate first, loot everything, see what the enemies are before you really do much of anything else.
Yeah, not seeing any like really spectacular loot here.
Nah, just a couple high-end consumables, basically. Well, gate complete. Let's hope that this is an Esper. Holgart still needs 4 Espers. And it is. It's Phantom Magicite.
That's another decent one. Not as useful as Fenrir because the invisibility does have the disadvantage of if you get hit with any kind of magic, it will be taken off, but can still have its uses when you're dealing with you know really difficult physical attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have both, I mean, you can use Phantom in tier 1 and just take 0 damage, which is pretty nice. Like, tier 1 is almost all physical, unless you let it live for a few turns, in which case you might see a shockwave or two. So what's up next for Holgart? Looks like going to see what the reward is inside Mobliz. And looks like we will be joined by FiKtaH momentarily.
And
Hello.
Holgart, oh hello, how's it going?
Pretty good. Feeling good after that one.
That was extremely well done. Yes, most definitely.
Thank
How
you.
did you feel about the third tier of Kefka there?
That was scary, for sure. I was kind of prepared that sleep would do something funny. Um, but I think everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Luckily, we had life 3, and I just kept setting that on Setzer with the Valiant Knife, and we got through it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
real heads up play, by the way, to use those revivifies on the boss and heal it out of that danger zone so you could at least try to rebuild your party.
Yeah, I've done that before, like once or twice, and yeah, I'm good thing I remembered to do that because that would have been a wipe for sure.
yeah. The worst thing that can happen on that tier is when you just getting hit with those meteors back to back.
Right.
Um, can be
Well,
almost impossible to recover.
yeah, and actually after the first Meteo, I thought that that was it. I actually got out of my menu to see if he would do another one, and he didn't. So then I queued up something, and then he followed it up with another Meteo. So maybe I just have to wait a bit longer when coming out of the menu.
Yeah, hard to say there, but it definitely made for an exciting finish to the seed there. Your offense at least was good enough that you were able to get rid of Kefka before Goner came out. Like, if Goner came out, I don't think there's a way that you could rebuild after the life 3s go off and finish up there. Really had to just muscle it out there, which you were able to do.
Right. Yeah, I think I knew that I had enough with the Valiant Knife offering. I did about 40k to him already before the Goner, and then I finished it off with another Valiant Knife attack. So yeah,
And
it
yeah,
worked out.
sometimes you just gotta YOLO it and just you know try to tear it down.
Yeah, exactly.
All said and done, though, it was definitely a really interesting seed. You and Holgart took some very different paths from pretty early on and ended up with quite a few different character checks. And um, the main disadvantage Holgart had was he just kept hitting quite a few dead checks,
Oh
and
no.
that was a big part of what uh, helped you out with that big lead there at the end. Um, you were
It was
definitely
a combination of all those dead checks, and Holgart didn't go to Gao Mansion until about 50 minutes in, so Holgart
Oh.
had to fight a lot of those nastier early game bosses without that drill. And that drill was probably the most useful I've ever seen a tool in any randomizer raid so far.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught it. It was really early on, but I sold pretty much the kitchen sink to try to get that drill in the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, that was kind of
hmm,
funny. I'm like, should I sell this stuff? Yeah, I'm not coming back here, so.
Yeah, yeah. Drill was the MVP of this seed. I had a couple
Yeah.
questions for you though.
Okay.
One, we were kind of debating about it in chat here. You didn't really use the gem box that you picked up at all. Any particular reason for that?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Gembox to begin with. The only time I was talking to someone about it earlier today. The only time I would use it would be in the final battle. And even then, you could get countered in between casts. So it's not the greatest thing. And you have to wait for the animation to come out, or not the animation. You have to wait for the load time to have the first cast.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly that fast. And I had Marvel shoes on Realm anyway, so her ATB refilled pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's some logic behind that, but your realm in this final battle cast Life 3 more than anything else.
True.
Might
Yeah.
have been useful to have the double cast for that alone, honestly.
That was exactly the reason why. Oh, I was talking to someone earlier, and we agreed that the only time you would use gem box is if you have a good support spell like Life 3. And I didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, well, you pulled through all the same. The other question I had, more like an observation, were you aware that Atlas Armlet and Hero Rings don't stack?
Oh, I am aware of that. I may have just done it, not thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah, because that Atlas Armlet on Shadow was dead weight. You could have replaced it with like a pod bracelet or a pair of Marvel shoes or something.
Right. Well, okay.
Did you have any other thoughts about the seed while we've got you here?
Everything worked out really well. I think I got very lucky. I did have a thought when I landed in Umaro's cave that I needed a Valiant Knife. The only thing that would make Setzer useful is if I got a Valiant Knife. And then the first chest I found got a Valiant Knife. So I think I just got really, really lucky the entire seed.
Yeah, that Valiant Knife really put in some good work for you later on there. And of course, you saw the offering within the first 5 minutes. So that was basically go instantly to Zen and pick that thing up to pair with it.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely a really lot of offense. Not so much available for healing, which is why that Life 3 was pretty crucial. But the offensive options in the seed were just out of this world.
Yeah, I did have a bit of healing. I had Starlit and I had health. But I didn't want to heal Setzer because of the Valiant Knife combo. So I was kind of in a pickle. I only had one elixir and one X potion. But
Yeah,
I knew we didn't really
rare
have
not to
to
see
heal.
a whole bunch of elixirs in a seed there. So usually you'd have probably 4 or 5 on average by the time the final battle rolls around. But only the
Right.
one in this case certainly made things interesting for you. Another question I had actually. How upset were you at the amount of bosses that were just outright immune to or absorbed ice damage, since that was the big spell?
I don't think we had that many. Like, I mean, Doom. I'm seeing Doom right now on Holgar's screen. Like Tritalk in the very end. There was one Umaro in the beginning, but not too many. I didn't find. I thought I got lucky with Doom. Like right after I bought 4 Pearl Rods, we run into Doom.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Right. So it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we let you go on your merry little way?
No, I'm gonna watch it back, of course, and I'm gonna cheer on Holgart now. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to the Restream team. Thank you, Atma, for creating such a wonderful game. And yeah, cheers, everyone.
All
Yeah,
right.
definitely a good game, and wish you the best of luck going into the next round of the Coliseum.
Thanks. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right.
That's
Meanwhile,
tonight's race FiKtaH. So good game to them. And Holgart here only needing one more Espert now, and it looks like it is auction house time.
yeah, that's definitely a pretty good play at this point. Especially since, if you have enough, I didn't catch a look at how much money he had, but if you have enough and you can just buy out everything, as long as you dodge that imp robot, it ends up not being that bad.
And no, we have no Espers in the auction house.
Oh, that is really unfortunate.
Holgart can't buy an Esper to save his life right now. So if you're Holgart, where do you go next to find just one more Esper?
Well, I would definitely look at the locations that can't be characters. So, um, Magitech Research Facility, um, any other places that that the first check or two isn't going to give you another unneeded character?
Yeah, I think Magitech is definitely the play here myself. I mean, the chances of one of those first two checks being an Esper is extremely good. We've seen enough dead checks already. There can only be so many dead checks. All the Espers and characters do need to be placed somewhere in the seed.
Yeah, and getting in and just getting straight to that Ifrit and Shiva fight does not take long at all. And as long as you have warp stones and you can hop back out once you find what you need. So with any luck, he wouldn't even need to do both of the boss fights there. If the Shiva Ifrit one gives you what you need, then you'd be good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Just toss the warp stone and let's get on with things. And looks like that is where Holgart is going to head here, flying the airship straight to Vector.
Yep, I would definitely say that this is the smart play right now.
At least have a look at the stores here. Can't say I really blame Holgard at this point. We did notice a relative paucity of defensive gear in this seed outside of the red jackets. Well, we got fire rods for sale. Maybe not that bad of a pickup for Holgart. Holgart does not have the offensive capabilities that FiKtaH did. No Valiant Knife offering combo.
And fire rods are a pretty solid choice. There are quite a few things that are weak against fire.
Yeah, I think the biggest slap on the face here for Holgart would be is if one of these bosses is Spicy Chicken. We haven't seen that boss yet, and at this point, Holgart does not need any more bad luck.
Yeah, it's basically either that or Magimaster are the only other things I can think of that we'd really be worried about running into.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen most of the other nasty bosses elsewhere. Well, we won't have to wonder too much longer. FiKtaH riding that conveyor belt down into the trash heap. And we'll see what boss awaits us, and more importantly, will it have Esper number 10 for Holgart?
Fingers crossed. Some interesting color schemes on Shiva there today.
Well, it's just number 128, so not a problem here. It is, however, another boss that absorbs ice. So Holgart wisely casting a Bolt 2 spell over the Ice 3. Big shock damage there from Holgart's Edgar.
Yeah, this should not take more than a few hits to get through. Never a particularly beefy boss, even when it's scaled.
Yeah. Yeah, and there it goes. Number 128 is down. Will this be Esper number 10 at long last for Holgart?
Well, I think the seed owes it to him at this point, after how mean it's been.
There it is, Magicite Terito. So Kefka's Tower now open for Holgart. Levels looking pretty good, high 30s. We'll probably get into the low 40s after fighting the bosses along the way. It's just a matter of, is Holgart comfortable going in there with the levels and gear that he has right now?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have quite as many offensive options. He didn't find the Valiant Knife. I don't think he found the gem box as far as I saw. So might be a little bit more of a struggle for damage output. He is landing by the Opera House, so looks like he's gonna.
Dragon here. Not a bad
Yeah,
choice. Get you a
yeah,
few levels and an item from the quote-unquote really good tier. Just have to see exactly what it is. We have an Ice Durgan.
yet another boss that those Ice 3 spells won't work against, but he does have those fire rods, and that would take him down pretty quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bought 30 fire rods. This is definitely the time to bust those out. Gets 2 freezies. Come on, game. Give Holgart a break already here. And the confused misses too. Just add injury to insult there. Holgart, you just bought fire rods. What are you doing? Okay, thawing out your party. That makes sense. Break those rods, sir.
That freezing status is something that can really be tough to deal with because you never know what spells you're gonna get, and sometimes you only have a fire 2 or a fire 3, and if you don't have defense against that, you could kill your own party while you're thawing them out. So having that fire 1 spell, this is actually one of those situations that's a blessing.
Still, Ice Dragon not going to be a problem here for Holgart. Could have gotten out of that fight a lot quicker just by breaking 3 of those rods. That would have been GG right there. So I don't know if that was Holgart forgetting that he just bought 30 rods. I hope it wasn't saving them because you aren't going to use 30 rods over the course of a seed. Reward is an offering, so
Wow.
I don't think Holgart picked up that Valiant Knife inside Umaro's cave because did the Tritok boss battle and just warped out.
Now, I think that is the second offering that he has picked up, and it's a real shame if you don't have a really good weapon to pair it with.
Yeah, absolutely. But saving outside the tower now, you can see how good those dragons are for experience. The whole party gaining 4 levels at level 38. Gonna pitch a quick tent, and I think it's Kefka time here for Holgart. Yeah, here we go. Holgart gonna enter the tower. Let's see how splits up the party. Lots of options here. Lots of characters found.
And the good part about this right now is the first 4 bosses that you go through here really weren't anything too rude. He's gonna have probably a sigh of relief when he sees a couple of piece of cake bosses on his way to the end.
Yeah, splitting up the good characters and then just fill them out with the slapdash roster here. I mean, some of those secondary characters do have their uses, of course, but Holgart making some interesting party choices compared to what I think a lot of other runners would do. Passing up on throw, always a curious choice. Replacing tools with shock, not something I would have done, but in a magic-rich seed with all those magic +2s, I mean, you can see how beefy Edgar's shock is getting.
Shock is definitely one of those things that can be extremely powerful, especially in the final tiers of the Kefka fight. At AoE damage that can get pretty far up there, Probably one of the strongest AoE options that he has available from what I've seen.
It's either that or multicasting Ice 3 with Realm, so yeah, definitely good for crowd control. It's a matter of equipping the characters however Holgart so chooses here.
And while we have a moment before he gets up to his first boss battle, just want to give one more shout out to our Restream team for helping us out behind the scenes here. Brianna Fofana, Banana Mana, Bobana helping us out with the Restream today. and Ceiling Cat taking care of the tracking, definitely doing the hard work, while me and Jack just sit here and ramble on and pretend like we're working.
Yeah, exactly. All we have to do is flap our gums. That's how we get our paycheck here.
Yep.
11th hour ice shield for Holgart. Nice little breakable there. Or, you can equip it for defense if you want to be all defensive and stuff.
I like to see the play where somebody keeps it equipped for the early stages, and then when you hit Kefka, pull it off and break it right there.
Moogle Charm for the Moogle. And an offering on the thrower for some reason.
It's a real shame that the offering won't let you throw 4 times in a row.
That would be just a little overpowered. Though you can basically impersonate that if you're lucky with sniper procs.
Alright, he will be approaching his first boss battle momentarily.
Yeah, first boss battle here. I think. No, we saw Doomgaze elsewhere. I'm trying to think what the boss here was now. I feel like I should remember it, but I'm not.
According to the tracker, it was the number 24.
Ah, yes, the fake Magimaster.
And that, of course, shows us again why we need a tracker, because you and I would never be able to remember that on our own. So thank goodness for Ceiling Cat.
Oh yeah, Ceiling Cat is always watching. Specifically, she's always watching you. That's right, you who is listening to me right now. Ceiling Cat is watching you, so you better behave yourself.
Alright, so Holgart should make short work of the discount Magic Master. Mog hitting for a good 146 damage, saying, I'm helping, I'm helping.
Yeah. And Holgart not showing any restraint, just going to throw tack stars right away. And I mean, at this point, you might as well. I don't think you'll be taking an underleveled Celes into the final battle.
Yeah, and
So
I mean,
get out the damage that you can right now.
Yeah, considering how low level she is, 1,000 damage per hit, that's not nothing.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, throw is definitely a good command for this boss who's got really high physical defense. So throw at least able to cut through that. This is where this boss can actually get a little mean when it does its wall changes. Remember that elemental moves are randomly assigned here.
Yes, but it looks like with Strago jumping with that dragon
Ooh,
form.
big quake coming out here. That's bad news. Oh, very low damage off of it.
Yeah, number 24, even when he's scaled up, just isn't that tough.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising though. I mean, the boss is going to be level 40 here right now. You'd expect Quake to do a lot more than that. Yeah, and Landslide barely breaking 500.
And it looks like Strago managed to finish him off with another double jump. So that will be the first boss down.
Yeah, solid damage out of jump. It'll be much better on every other boss in the way here. As we mentioned, number 24 does have particularly high physical defense. So those jumps doing a little less damage than expected. Holgart just going to wave to the dragon. Hello, dragon. Bye, dragon. And now it's time to go push some 4-ton weights.
Yeah, Strago must really, never skip his day at the gym if he can manage to push one of those down.
Strago's not going to have to push one down, but we will see a 10-year-old girl push a 4-ton weight.
All right, just a few moments, and Holgart will be into the final gauntlet. Um, wasn't really too much here that was particularly rude, but
No, probably the worst thing was Charternook, which is just an annoying boss. Nothing particularly threatening here at all. Tritalk, I would say, could potentially be an issue, but remember, Holgart does have 30 fire rods, so
well, if he remembers to use
if,
them,
if
yeah.
Holgart remembers, yeah, that's the thing. They weren't busted out against the Ice Dragon, so it makes you wonder a little bit. Alright, press the last button to open up the doors, and now is boss time.
Yeah, the first one here should be that Charternook, which thankfully the flag that turns more demon on will keep it in the demon phase where you can actually dish out damage to it, which definitely makes this fight far less tedious.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all those fire rods in tow, Charternook should not be long for this world. Just as long as Holgart remembers that there's 30 fire rods just sitting there in the inventory, those other characters can toss them and add to some damage here. What are you looking for, Holgart? Break the fire rods! No!
It's very possible that he just forgot that he has them. Wait, he's looking through the inventory. There we go.
Oh, I want these 13 seconds of my life back. Much better option, as you can see. Of course, nothing is going to compete with Edgar's ridiculously strong shock command. Don't know how much magic power Edgar has, but it's a lot.
Yeah, if you slap a magic boosting Esper on a character with shock, then just hitting the easy button.
Sleeping bag up and time for the next boss, which is probably going to go down in one shock since it's just leader. Some Moogle shooting the mean chest.
That is probably the only chest in the game that I didn't know was there before 2 weeks ago.
Oh, there's a few of them.
No, trust me. I've put probably over 1,000 hours into this game. I know where all the other ones are.
That's a lot of hours.
Oh yes.
That's like more than 900 hours.
Well, let me put it this way. When this game first came out, for the next 9 months straight, I did nothing else except when Chrono Trigger came out that summer, took a week off to beat Chrono Trigger, then came back to this.
Very nice. Well, that's 2 penultimate bosses down now. Phantom rather going to go on Edgar, and Fenrir going to go on Setzer. So there's some calmness protection and some I don't care about you tier 1 protection if you want.
Yeah. And these last couple of bosses should really be no trouble.
No, we've just got a Ultros 3 and Tritalk.
And
Throw a
they're
couple
both
fire
weak
rods,
against
bam,
fire.
bam. Let's move on to the final battle.
Yep, they are both weak against fire.
Yeah, better yet, I think, yeah, throw those elemental swords, Flame Saber, Thunder's Blade, those will hit pretty hard. Rune Edge not going to do much. Rune Edge, despite being an MP crit weapon, has about as much attack power as a Regal Cutlass, so it's pretty useless.
It's basically just a couple thousand GP shaped like a sword.
Basically, yeah. Don't throw the blizzard! What are you doing? I don't think Ultros is actually immune to ice.
As far as I know, I don't think he really has any immunities.
Nope. And Pogoing Old Man defeats the Purple Octopus.
Alright, so just the Tri-Talk fight left, and we'll be on to Kefka himself.
Yep, just 2 fire rods away.
Assuming he decides to use them.
Yeah. Holgar's been pretty rod averse, despite buying a pretty good supply of them. Immediately going for the fire rods is Holgard. Good. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, especially coming from Realm with the magic power that she's rocking.
Oh yeah, this is easy damage cap. Umaro has a Blizzard Orb on, so Umaro playing on Tritalk's side in this battle.
And that's why I never equipped the Blizzard Orb.
It has its uses, but Umaro is very rarely a viable late game character.
Yeah, and the flag that we have that allows you to change his equipment can be great unless you equip him with an elemental weapon that heals the boss.
Yeah.
Or the other one that sometimes happens is an instant death weapon, and then you find yourself fighting some undead, and it just brings them back.
Yeah, you run into an endless battle, effectively.
But yeah, Realm, just a couple fire rods managed to finish that boss off. And so Holgart will be on to the final battle.
Yeah, Holgart making pretty decent time getting through Kefka's tower here. Just a shame that it took him so long to pick up all the Magicites needed.
Yeah, he definitely had really efficient routing. He was getting through a lot of checks really quick. It was just, I like to say there is no wrong play, there's just the wrong play for this seed. And that's what he ran into.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, between all the empty checks and not getting that drill, which would have helped immensely in some of those earlier boss battles, Holgart taking as much as 5 minutes to take out some of his first few encounters.
Yeah, that's definitely something in the randomizer. Your early game offense can really set you up for the entire rest of the seed.
So final battle time now for Holgart. Take in the core 4 and time to lay waste to the Mad Clown.
Yeah, and he definitely has enough defensive options with his Espers that he should have plenty of ways to deal with Calmness.
Yeah, Calmness not the big threat this go around. But as we saw with FiKtaH, Tier 3 can still be extremely mean if you lack high magic evasion, which is not a stat that we're particularly gifted in this seed.
Yeah, the alternative, obviously FiKtaH did quite well with the, healing the boss to get out of that medio phase, but if you have strong enough offense, another option can just be to try to power through it, take sleep down before you get hit too hard.
Alright, so final boss is a go. Going to open up with an X zone from Setzer. We'll see if this lands and takes care of the long arm immediately. It does not, unfortunately. Considering his options right now is Holgart. Do have those fire rods. No, don't cast flare! Ah! Don't do it! Don't do it! You have Ice 3, you don't need to cast flare. Ice 3 is stronger.
Yeah, I mean, with Realm's high magic power, it did hit for 9,900 damage, but it is a very slow animation.
Ice 3 would hit for max damage too. It has higher spell power. Yeah, and not using the fire rods here either. Those would hit max damage on the face as well.
Yeah, Flare is really one of those things that, like, it's when you need non-elemental, like against Lady on tier 3, that can be a time to break it out. But
That's the time to cast flare, not right now. Holgart taking things a little more on the cautious side here to open up.
well, that's understandable considering, this seed has been all about the offense and not as many good options for, healing. He does have those life 3 spells, so that's definitely a good safety option.
Yeah, putting up some life 3s for safety here. Not a bad choice. The problem is some of those life 3s are going to be dispelled at the end of the next tier. Yeah, and electing to swing away with Edgar rather than use that beefy shock command there. I know there's a certain amount of fear of counterattacks here, but I believe all the parts have more or less the same max hit points. So as long as you're keeping your single targets focused on the one you want it gone first, you should be able to use your AoE moves without problem.
Yeah, this definitely helps get through the fight quicker too.
Yeah, the difference between that physical attack of Edgar's and the shock is just night and day. Physical's hitting for barely over 1,000, and shock on a single target would be hitting somewhere in the realm of 8,000 or 9,000 right now. But yeah, for a newer runner, Holgart definitely doing a pretty good job here. Mostly bad luck is the big time difference in this race. But still, some small tactical decisions like these will add up. This tier 1 could have been over probably a couple minutes quicker than it was.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one of those things where, as you're working your way through the randomizer, you've got a lot of different things that can make up a lot of time. There's your routing, there's efficiency in your looting, and there's efficiency in the way you handle the battles. And you kind of need to have that trifecta all coming together to, really work your way through a seed.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot of little time saves that you can work on and always improve on here. Something as simple as spending less time in your menus will save a lot of time over the course of any given seed. You know, fire up a stat esper on your character, give them a decent body piece and weapon, and just forget about them the rest of the way through. For
Yeah,
example.
that's something that I've been working on learning myself is when to stop checking my espers. Um, if it's a character that isn't going to use magic too often, it's not really worth the bother.
Yeah, no luck on the Raiden cast. Gonna try an X zone here to pick off the tools in the middle. No luck on that either. Just not able to connect with these instant death spells. They do not have the greatest accuracy. Much better off to use Air Anchor or Cleave if they're available for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and using Flare going after tools, be much better to go after Tiger first. Tiger is the real danger in this tier, and did cast Stop, but unfortunately on Magic. Stop does not work on Magic. It does work on the physical part, though. You can only silence the Magic part.
And we did see a Siren Esper earlier. Not sure whether Holgart found that one or not.
I believe Holgart found it, but I don't think anyone has it equipped here. Holgart being much more aggressive with Shock on this form, that's good. You can see the huge amount of damage it busted out. Still casting Flare with Realm, though. You'd be much better served to cast multi-target Ice 3. It'll still hit the cap on Tiger, and deal significant damage to the other parts as well. Just little tiny things like that. Maybe it's not the most obvious for a newer runner when you have a lot of different spells and options to consider which are the more optimal ones to be using outright. But it's something that you learn with getting the reps in there, and hopefully Holgart will continue to play the randomizer after the tournament. This was a returners bracket match, so Holgart will be eliminated from the Coliseum tournament after this, but Holgart at least giving us some entertainment here, playing pretty well.
Yep, and it's really a shame that the seed just was not being kind. Just so many dead checks in a row, and there's nothing anybody can do about that. You can play with the most optimal routing possible, and then the seed just says nope.
I can understand the desire to focus on single targets, though. The final battle is very counterattack heavy. So for a newer player especially, it's probably the best way to tackle these fights so you don't get overwhelmed with a whole ton of counters at once.
Yeah, he's playing a little bit conservatively, keeping up with the healing. Um, that health ability doesn't heal a whole lot, but it's definitely, keeping him topped off. He hasn't had any characters getting dropped really hard yet.
Yeah, for those wondering, health is... it's casting the Cure 2 spell on your whole party for free. That is exactly what it is. The command might as well have just been called Cure 2. Old man Pogo sticks each target for about 6,000 damage. Life 3 comes off, so magic only at about 9,000 hit points there. Not sure how much left on the physical part. We'll find out when that 10 hits comes out. Should be pretty soon there. There's that quarter counter when magic is at low health. A couple of D-spells going to follow it here. Here come the 10 hits. 3 misses and a couple of weak 100 damage hits, so looks like Holgart should be fine after all this.
Yeah,
Taking a bit of a beating, Edgar's going to go down here. And unfortunately, that was the last target, so Edgar is going to be replaced going into Tier 3. That beefy shock command, no longer available, unfortunate.
and that's especially a problem when dealing with Lady, because that shock is good non-elemental damage.
Oh, Holgart's just going to cast Flare on it with Realm and kill it in one hit, probably.
Yeah, that's true. But
Replaced by Terra, looks like. Holgart chose as his 5th character. So probably mostly going to be useful for items. Could probably dish out a bit of damage with GP Rain if you want.
except she just went down to the first Murtaugh.
Yeah. Have to see if Holgart elects to revive her or not.
Yeah, this is the problem when your backup team hasn't really gotten any levels. A lot of runners tend to rely very heavily on your primary 4 because it's not usually very efficient to spend a bunch of time leveling the other characters up. But the disadvantage is we see a situation right here where the backup team just really doesn't cut it.
Yeah, definitely at an advantage. Level is the stat that matters the most in this game, absolutely.
Which is unique to Final Fantasy VI.
You can still use your other characters, but they'd be in a more reduced role, making use of items to keep your main fighters going. Or if you have a surplus of rods, as Holgart does, be able to toss those for at least a little bit of damage. Now Holgart just searching around, going to put up some life 3s, looks like.
Definitely a good call.
Are still available. I think Setzer had it. Yes, Setzer does. Good. So at least able to get up some calmness protection that way. So here comes the Fenrir. And Realm does have life 3 on her. But if that counter goes off, she will lose the image status, and that would be a pretty nasty blow for Holgart if she were to get calmness later on.
Yeah, she is definitely one of his primary damage dealers, though. Terra dishing out a good 3,000 with a fire rod, so that's, respectable damage considering the low level. But she just
Holgart
dropped again.
wisely hiding in the menu here. We did see a meteor go off. This flare could end this phase. Yeah, here come the calmnesses. So good patience waiting in the menu there. That countdown will be gone, so Realm will be just fine going into the final battle here.
Yeah, we'll just see who his last backup is. Probably, once again, mostly going to be useful either breaking some rods or throwing some items, basically just being in the chemist role.
Yeah, 4 elixirs in stock right now. So yeah, Holgart Shadow not really going to be able to contribute on offense here. That drill definitely not going to be really worth making a use of. So just throw elixirs around. Keep your rest of your party healthy.
Let's get some hype in chat. Cheer him on. This can be a rough fight, as we saw earlier with FiKtaH. He did go into it.
Basically, just steamrolled right over Kefka.
Yeah. Well, he kind of had to, because he went into this final phase with his party on the verge of getting wiped. So he had to just YOLO it and dish out the damage.
Yeah, there really was no choice. Only 1 elixir in stock for FiKtaH. Really no way to heal his team up. Just had to go for it. So we got a fairly conservative opening here from Holgart. Gonna throw up some regain. Not sure how much that's really going to help, though. Does have the Mega Elixir, so that's at least a quick way to heal everybody up here.
This is the time to use it, definitely.
Yeah, it's gone after the fight either way, so use it now. But yeah, Holgart still tossing some life 3s around here. Just really wants to make sure that this Kefka fight goes off successfully.
Yeah, and I mean, with Realm hitting quad nines on her spellcast, he's definitely got the offense out. So
Yeah.
I can
Curious
see
choice
the
to use an ether here as he just threw a Mega Elixir, so everyone's MP completely full there.
yeah, probably just on like autopilot with that at this point and didn't, you know, stop to think about that. We got the train coming out.
Here. Choo choo!
That's when you want to have those 4 ribbons that we saw earlier in the seed.
Yeah, maybe. Well, truthfully, one of his characters is a jumper, so really Realm the only one being affected here. You can still break rods and shield while under silent status, so yes, Setzer electing to break rods here is not really going to be affected by that either. It will affect his health command, though, I believe.
Looks like he's about halfway through Kefka's hit points now.
Yeah, we should be seeing the end comes beyond chaos, and we do. So this is the primo attack time. No counter attacks here, so get that damage out there.
Now, what I've always wondered is when Kefka has that head underneath his hand, whose head is that?
I think it's just supposed to be Kefka laughing at you. It's never
He like
really questioned.
he summons a copy of his own head.
I think they just couldn't really animate the sprite. Maybe. Well, here comes a Goner. That's probably going to eliminate Shadow, but the rest of the team should survive fairly comfortably. Alright, now we're into some dangerous times here. Holgart continuing to attack. Kefka is in counter mode here. Hopefully, we don't see any nasty counters here.
Yeah, he's getting pretty close though. He's definitely dealt at
Yeah, and
least.
there it is.
Oh,
That
here we
flare
go.
is going to do it. So Holgart is going to defeat Kefka. Well done.
Yes, let's get some GGs in chat. That was definitely very well done.
And the official finish time is 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 23 seconds.
Yeah, this was definitely a bit of a rude seed for Holgart, but he definitely powered through it, and that was a very well executed final fight there. So let's get some love in chat for both of our runners, Holgart and FiKtaH, for putting on a show for us tonight. And let's not forget to throw some love at our restream team as well. Ceiling Cat and Brianna Fofana Bobana. We would not be able to have this on today, and I know that we did have some people, stepping up at the last minute to help us out to get this put together. So definitely want to show them all of our appreciation for helping make sure that we could put this show on today.
And I believe we will be joined by Holgart for a quick interview before we finish up here. We will be rating another FF6 Worlds Collide player momentarily. But for now, let's bring in Holgart and get a few thoughts from them on tonight's race. Hello, Holgart. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on the finish there. We think you did pretty well for a newer player. What do you think of the randomizer so far? Hello, Holgart. Thanks for joining
Really
us,
like
and
it.
congratulations
That's
on the finish there.
Thanks for really, that's my
We
favorite
think you did
randomizer
pretty
to
well
see
for a
so
newer
playing it
player.
as a
What do you
randomizer
think of the randomizer
really
so
is
far?
awesome. Still gotta learn every little bits of the game, but yeah, that's why I struggled so much. Couldn't find any rods, only super balls, and really not lucky with the characters. kept popping in my face.
Yeah, that then part of that was just pure luck because you and Ficta did take some very different routes through the game and ended up picking up very different characters, so it kind of pointed you in different directions. And there was definitely a big part of just bad luck with finding character after character after character or dead checks that just gave you items instead of magicite. And you definitely, just by pure luck could have gotten those magicite a lot earlier, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I'm guessing the floating continent was rewarding.
It did have a couple espers on it, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was about to do it and I was like, 55 minutes in, I'm not sure. I already have 6 characters, but yeah.
Yeah, floating continent is always something a lot of people hesitate about. It is very time consuming compared to a lot of other checks, but it does have three checks there, so it's kind of a, give and take.
Yeah,
Um,
so Holgart, unfortunately, you are eliminated from our tournament here in
yeah.
the Coliseum round two. But I think you put on a pretty good show, and I'd highly recommend you watch the race back. Might pick up a few things that'll help you lower your time.
Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to watch it.
You
Yeah, all
definitely
right.
you definitely were very efficient in the final battle there with keeping your party alive. Um, you know, maybe you could have gotten through a little bit faster with some, different spell choices, Flare being a very slow spell, but
Yeah,
you managed to get through without like taking any big wipes and had all of your defense up when you needed it. Having the life threes and the Fenrir was very effective, making sure that you didn't lose most of your main party. So that was definitely very well done.
yeah. Losing Edgar kind of hurt, but I still managed,
Yeah.
so I was happy.
Right on. So Holgart, do you have any final thoughts for us before we let you go tonight?
Well, thanks a lot for having me, and thanks for the community because you guys always are there ready to help us, and that's really awesome. Makes us want to play more and get better. So, yeah, thanks again
Yeah.
for every one of you who helped me so far.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you for putting on a good show for us tonight, and definitely looking forward to seeing you in some more races on Discord.
Yes.
All right, folks. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for us here tonight. I'd just like to remind everyone, please follow both of our runners in this race tonight. And if you like, you can follow us in the broadcast booth as well. I am Jackamus Wedge. I was joined by Tara Omen on commentary. We had the always wonderful Ceiling Cat doing tracking, and new restreamer Brianna Fofana stepping up to make this race happen tonight. And once we are finished up here, we will be sending you all over to watch Jex Varrock, another Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide runner.
Yeah, and definitely a very fun one to watch. Jex is definitely an excellent member of the community, and I always enjoy seeing some of the crazy seeds that he rolls.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. As always, I'm Jack Miss Wedge. Thank you all so much for watching, and always remember, let's go Bruins!
All right, we will see you all next time. Thank you very much.